Extreme sports. The historical and anthropological approach. Mosna Xavier * Marco Antonio Bettin de Almeida * William Galhardo * Felipe Paris Barbosa. Article recorded on June 3, 2023 by Sybil Baylor for educational sharing in audiobook. Flor de Auro Malik Cosa Nova. Like and share. Grateful. Summary and analysis of adventure sports as an important alternative to re-establish the already distant contact between human beings and nature. Through bibliographical research of authors and works of the genre, place a study on the effects of adventure sports in the formation of tribes and as a mechanism to escape the civilizing process. Uniterms. Sports, adventure, nature, tribes, civilizing process. Introduction. The human being is a social animal. Since the beginning, it has differentiated itself from other living beings not only for its manual skills, but also for its ability to establish contacts and bonds with other beings of its race. The first bonds of social relations were established in an extremely favorable scenario, that is, in contact with nature. The beginnings of human evolution took place in a scenario introjected within the natural world, in direct contact with other animals, including disputing space for survival. Over the years and the course of evolution, social relationships produced an evolution that tended to distance man from living with nature. The complex web of relationships created by human beings led humanity to become extremely dependent, according to Emile Durkheim 1973, page 124 on the so-called social fact ways of acting, thinking and feeling external to the individual and endowed with a coercive power by virtue of which it imposes itself as a kind of obligation. This type of evolution, named by Norbert Elias as the civilizing process, generated an accelerated stage of urbanization, especially in the last 3 centuries, dramatically moving man away from the closest contact with nature. Indeed, the momentum in the various evolutionary layers reached in our current society is considerable. Constant growth in the standard of living, revolution in the field of medicine, innumerable knowledge in different areas are proof of the benefits of the urbanized society. However, the current problems resulting from this evolutionary process also reach a considerable magnitude. Diseases of all kinds arise at alarming speed. Economic inequality between inter- and intra-nations is also worth mentioning. However, from a sociological point of view, one of the main problems encountered in our technological society is isolationism. Lack of social contacts. The routine and demands of our globalized world force man to distance himself from living with other human beings, losing the main characteristic which led to all his achievements. In the words of sociologist Karl Mannheim, shyness, prejudice and mistrust are capable of producing social isolation similar to that caused by physical defects. Isolationism must be fought through the establishment of so-called social contacts, the basis of any and all human associations. According to Oliveira 1997, p. 117, these types of relationships are hierarchical according to the narrowing caused by coexistence at the time of practice. Social contacts can be primary establishment of bonds, as is the case with families, or secondary mere twist of information or facts such as a conversation between Passengers on a bus. This work aims to analyze the benefits provided by adventure sports in establishing social contacts, providing an important leisure activity in this highly urbanized society. However, the increasing interference of the civilizing process will become evident, distorting the most fruitful objectives of the development of these activities, that is, the rediscovery of man himself through direct contact with nature, resulting in the so-called adventure sports, where the presence of nature would work as a background for the human being, in a favorable environment, to unload all the tensions arising from the exhaustive civilizing process. However, as we will see in this work, adventure sports suffers a significant barrier to their expansion. They do not have Olympic modalities that encompass all their practices. With the exception of bicicross Olympic modality since the Athens Olympics in 2000, the other adventure sports depend on specific committees and associations to organize competitions, consequently restricting media visibility. Despite UVINHA 2001 p.67 establishing that the types of social groups formed by the practice of extreme sports contribute greatly to providing a lucrative market with high market visibility. Article recorded on June 3, 2023 by Sybil Mann-Baylor for educational sharing in audiobook Flor di Aromatic Cosa Nova. Like and share. Grateful. The rise of adventure sports. In Brazil, adventure sports, commonly known as extreme sports, began to gain participation and media visibility from the 1980s onwards and, according to UVINHA 2001, page 13, this style of sporting practice is in full expansion. Because since the second half of the 20th century, extreme sports have received a considerable increase in the number of fans. In search of re-establishing social contacts, the human being decided to return back to its origins, seeking to understand again the importance of social interaction for a more beneficial evolution to humanity. In this attempt to return to the beginning, the key element now forgotten stood out: nature. Several segments of our society seek to re-establish contact with nature as a way to guarantee a better quality of life and better social ties. I cite as an example the leisure and tourism area, where hotels, inns and resorts located immersed in forests are increasingly sought after. This important process of searching for nature also had an important impact on the sports area. The vertiginous growth of sports and physical activities in contact with nature, commonly known as adventure sports, showed an important growth from the 1970s onwards. Organization of games and events, in addition to market exploration, demonstrating a worrying direct interference of the aforementioned civilizing process in this area. It should be noted that adventure sports have a large number of fans in the youth age group from 18 to 30 years old. The search for emotion and the phenomenon of popularization of the theme radical in the practice of sports has grown significantly in recent decades, generating repercussions for this age group that deserve reflection from an anthropological point of view. However, this jovial spirit of adventure sports does not necessarily correspond with the individual's biological age. According to BOURVIDU 1983, page 56, the differences between the types of age are the most diverse and significant possible. The relationships between social age and biological age are very complex, where age is a socially manipulated biological datum and manipulable. The speed of creation of new radical sports in the world generates an extremely lucrative market for this type of activity. In this chapter, the most practiced adventure sports in Brazil will be analyzed from their historical perspective, form of practice, and, consequently, their sociological and anthropological insertions in the context of our current society. We can mention the following extreme sports. Climbing. It is a sport that includes walking and climbing in mountains. Surfing, one of the oldest extreme sports, that appeared in Hawaii/USA in the beginning of the 20th century. Exiling from the French, rappel, is a vertical activity practiced using ropes and suitable equipment for descending walls and free spans as well as other buildings. Skateboard, pronounced skeeted, is a sport invented in California that consists of sliding over the ground and balancing obstacles on a board equipped with 4 small wheels and 2 axles. Adventure racing, also called multi-sport competitions, are practices that involve various types of adventure sports. In general, they are carried out in a natural environment and are characterized by logistics complex, both in the organization of events and in the training and preparation of teams of athletes, among other modalities. The interference of the civilizing process in adventure sports, the competitive spirit and the departure from playfulness. Adventure sports have evolved greatly in the last 30 years of our history, being considered as modern. According to Gutman 1978, modern sports have several characteristics that keep them away from their ludic objectives: secularism, equal opportunities in competition and in its conditions, specialization of rules, rationalization enabling its internationalization, bureaucratic organization, the push for quantification and the pursuit of records. This recent view on the interpretative approach to sport follows the so-called Frankfurt School. On this systematic understanding of sport, Bingham 1979, page 23, advocates a split on the sports modalities, with emphasis on changing their objectives and purposes, as a model of the ideal type of organized sport, thought of into historical moments distinct, one denominated pre-modern and the other modern. The characteristics presented above demonstrate a direct and evident interference of the so-called civilizing process in the realization of modern sports. The rationalization of its practice, seeking the dissemination of its principles, symbolizes the introspection of sports modalities, among them those of adventure, in the formation of a standardization of the principles of typical practices advocated by Norbert Elias in his theory, which believes that sport modernism has developed as part of this process. The activities carried out in direct contact with nature are not seen merely as recreational activities, carried out only in moments of free time intended for distancing from the civilizing process, the time that we call leisure. According to Marcellino 1998, page 47, leisure, rather than a reaction to the demands of life in society, externalizes a clear motivation to vent a range of emotions repressed by the demanding daily routine. Leisure appeared in industrial urban society as an isolated sphere, opposed to work, within social life, as a human need for fun and fraternization. In the contemporary world, radical or adventure activities were inserted in the context of what we call sport. sports modalities bring together several positive factors, favoring the strengthening of social bonds necessary for human existence itself. According to Markey Jr. 2006, page 12, sport can be understood as a microspace that symbolizes the tensions and feelings involved in social life. For him, sport constitutes a social phenomenon in the process of being constituted. That is, sports practices reflect, in their historical context, continuities and ruptures that characterize the expansion of their borders. However, the benefits of any and all sports modality are questioned through the way in which the dispute and confrontation materialize, that is, through competition. According to Martins 1976, page 19, competition will exist as long as the human being wants to compare his performance with another result of his own or, mostly, of another athlete. For the author, competition is a process in which the comparison of an individual's performance is made with some standard in the presence of at least one other person who is knowledgeable of the criteria for comparison and can evaluate the process. The primary need of competition demands that athletes always perform optimal or maximum performance in search of results. According to Durkheim 1982, page 77, competition, with the evolution of the years, has become a primordial factor in the practice of sports, presenting itself as the main training objective, not only of the training mechanisms, but also of the athlete's own personality. The principle of performance in modern sports emerges as the engine of the sports system, a kind of center of gravity around which the other elements are located, the principle by which structural changes are guided. The competitive state determines, at the end of the dispute, the situation of victory or defeat, removing the aspect of playfulness, interaction with nature and self-knowledge, master pillars of the creation of adventure sports. For Goltani et al. 1996. Page 25. The sporting result contrasts feelings of victory and defeat, directly reflecting on how the athlete will behave with these contrasting sensations, because the final result of a competition implies, many times, few people have experienced success and many people have experienced failures, this being a natural consequence of competition. Still, according to the Osh et al. 1996, page 45, the objective of sport will always be competitiveness and performance, removing the need for conviviality with the ludic, so necessary for a better quality of life in this urbanized world. Some adventure sport modalities have structured championships, belonging to associations and federations that regulate the practice of that activity. In Brazil, skateboarding is the adventure sport that has the largest organization, holding national and international competitions, attracting great public attention, mainly due to the media appeal. The adolescent way of life and the jovial spirit of skateboarding find affinities and sympathizers in all age groups of the population, motivating the bombardment of media vehicles and their sponsors in this modality. UVINH 2001, page 89, reports that the visibility of extreme sports for the younger public constitutes an interesting attraction for media and communication vehicles. As reported in his work, extreme sports including skateboarding, generally associated with the habits and way of life of teenagers, appear more and more in media programming. Radicals, Society goes through an evolutionary and changing process, classified by Auguste Comte as social dynamics, that is, the way societies walk in search of their development. The formation of a specialized consumerist market may reflect as a result of the social dynamics of the emergence of social groups that consume products intended for adventure sports. However, for term 1977, page 32, consumerism is not explained merely by the influence of the media, but by a deep identification with the concepts represented in them. It is necessary to eliminate the simplistic conception that opposes consumers to producers of culture in terms of a purely passive acceptance by the public of material that is foisted on it from outside. The social dynamics of the formation of tribes, their relationship with youth, and the emergence of a promising consumer market adventure sports are characterized by the formation of groups which share the same moral and physical identity. These groupings are usually called tribes. Matheson 1988, page 28, understands that tribes materialize in modern society in different types of segments, through syncretism and the sum of different styles of life and thought, forming a totally unique new group in the context of cities. Contemporary cities are populated by tribes, which implies that, in their plurality of origins and behaviors, societies are not born from reducing diversity to a single centralizing element, but from the conjunction of disparate elements. This tribalist society feels the need to consolidate the feeling of collective union and restoration of what constitutes the foundation of being together with. Article recorded on June 3, 2023 by Sybil Mann-Baylor for educational sharing in audiobook Flor de Aromatic Cosa Nova. Like and share. Grateful. According to BRUNH's 2009, page 39, the formation of tribes has a greater connection with the sports of nature, where the search for the distance from the routine imposed by society enhances the formation of groups of people with similar characteristics, materialized in the routine of lives of these people. Unlike what Matheson recommends, the author believes that the formation of tribes, mainly their ideological characteristics, generates the natural distancing from consumerism, since most of these groups hate such behavior, as it distances man from his natural appearance. The tribes, formed mainly by proximity to extra-urban factors, materializes in the pursuit of leisure by people impregnated by routines, forcing them to seek nature as an escape mechanism. Pilgrimage to the hippie movement, which took place in the 1960s in the United States, materializes this idea of how the search for nature represented a contestation by these groups in relation to the values of a certain form of production and consumption. Article recorded on June 3, 2023 by Sybil Mann-Baylor for educational sharing in audiobook Flor de Aromatic Cosa Nova. Like and share. Grateful. Magnani 1992, page 58, notes that tribes are made up of a kind of people who unite for a common goal, usually formed from an event that occurs in society, producing the style of thinking shared by a series of people, creating the kind of identity. When speaking of tribes, one must not forget that in reality a metaphor is being used, not a category. The difference is that while the former is formed from another domain, and used in its entirety, the category is constructed to cut describe and explain some phenomenon from a previously chosen conceptual scheme. It may even come borrowed from another area, but in this case it will have to go through a reconstruction process. These tribes of adventure sports practitioners behave and dress in a characteristic and peculiar way. This example is well evidenced in the so-called skateboard tribe, where male and female young people have the same style of clothing: loose shorts, typical sneakers, shirts and caps, in addition to using the same specific language to communicate with each other. Excessive use of slang. In Brazil, skateboarding and surfing are lucrative markets due to the large number of fans of the tribes of these modalities. Stores with specialized items, specific magazines, and the proliferation of websites for fans are examples of the economic power that can be generated by selling specific products. The constant process of globalization, which advocates the formation, according to Essay and Brand KO 2009, page 02, of an international society, makes the availability of mass communication vehicles potentiate the dissemination of cultural aspects and, consequently, marketing. Youth and people who consider themselves as such usually call adventure sports as extreme sports. Traditionally, youth represents the aspect of change within the aforementioned theory of social dynamics, since it is responsible for the aspect of mobility of thought and attitude that balance the balance of social evolution with the more traditional anti-players. This spirit of joviality is intrinsically present in the radical nature of the sports practiced in contact with nature, since, as Uniterms 2001, page 09 teaches, the interpretation of the concept of radical surpasses the physical aspect, reaching the ideological spheres, that the word radical generally suggests to understandings. Extremism, when applied to the field of politics, root, when looking for the origin of something, frequently used, for example, in the field of philosophy. However, with regard to the practice of sports, the term radical is aimed at an activity that generates a differentiated excitement, due to the controlled risks that the physically and mentally young person is subject to accepting in the practice of such activity. Still, according to Uniterms 2001, page 13, extreme sports have in common the taste for risk and adventure, many with the proposal of also engaging in causes of ecological preservation. This search for cathartic feelings of ecstasy and excitement, characteristic of youth and contagious to all age groups, is a recent phenomenon in our history. According to Tahar and Schwartz 2006, page 39, the constant search of human beings with nature provides experiences that also reflect on the lifestyle of people who experience such practices. The search for adventure, for the unknown, far from urban standards, has been more frequent lately, when one notices the increase in natural experiences present in physical adventure activities in direct contact with the natural environment, in the sense of seeking favorable conditions to the possibility of giving more quality to life. This constant search to expand any emotions repressed by the feeling of excitement was foreseen within the theory of the civilizing process. According to Elias, moments of leisure are essential to provide human beings with an escape from the rules and regulations that govern urbanized society. Extreme sports could be considered as the ultimate leisure activity, where the individual seeks the maximum feeling of excitement in order to alleviate the tensions provided by our society. Article recorded on June 3, 2023 by Sybil Mann-Baylor for educational sharing in audiobook Flor de Aromatic Cosa Nova. Like and share. Grateful. Final considerations. The practice of sports, despite presenting the character of high performance and income as a result of the competition involved in its practice, removes a series of benefits and social experiences that could be provided as a result of coexistence and the establishment of social bonds. Adventure sports enable the interaction of playfulness from a less competitive spirit combined with the necessary contact with nature, providing human beings with a moment of necessary removal from the routine of cities in search of greater contact with their habitat of origin. These cathartic experiences, provided by these sports, have directly reached social groups with a tendency to seek new experiences, characterized by a spirit of joviality and entrepreneurship that are important to guarantee a balance in the evolution of the social dynamics necessary in our society. The benefits of adventure sports, also known as extreme sports, are varied. In addition to allowing a closer relationship with nature, it encourages the release of repressed emotions that could be materialized in an immoral way, such as the practice of violence, for example, positively directed to the search for excitement recommended by Elias and Dunning in their theories. The evident increase in the number of practitioners of these types of modalities, which remove the competitive character, represent the readaptation of sports practice, which is not limited only to competition, but also presents an introspective character where the individual knows and evaluates his condition with extra perspective as a way of establishing social bonds necessary in any society. The diverse variety of adventure sports modalities found in land, air and water allow the athlete, in addition to the search for excitement, the positive interaction with other people who share the same tastes, providing the formation of the so-called tribes, which they express their taste for that adventure sport in their way of going, language, clothing, behavior, among others. Despite the fact that most adventure sports do not have media visibility, the large number of tribes of practitioners, combined with the high lucrative market for the sale of related items, provides the formation of some associations and confederations, mainly those linked to skateboarding and surfing, which organize high visibility tournaments involving considerable financial power, functioning as a virtuous circle in the dissemination of these sports, increasing even more the number of its practitioners. In addition, adventure sports eliminate social barriers between the sexes, as they allow in some modalities, such as adventure racing, men and women to participate on equal terms by performing the same activities. The young spirit of the practice of these modalities also infects people of all ages to perform their modalities, favoring the better quality of life for all age groups of the population. The ever-increasing participation of fans of extreme sports, however, increases the ever-increasing interference of the civilizing process in their practices. The requirement for regulations, equipment and specific training generate a noticeable social barrier, pushing away the less well-off players. The practice of these activities, with the exception of skateboarding, surfing, and bicicross, whose equipment has a lower monetary value, Adventure sports provide significant leisure activities, mostly in interaction with nature, functioning as a necessary valve for the stress generated by our modern civilization. Therefore, the existence of public policies that regulate and disseminate the practice of these modalities is necessary, excluding the existing social barrier, allowing all social spheres to benefit from the countless benefits arising from their achievement. In order to guarantee the continuity of the propagation of the positive factors of these types of sport, it is of fundamental importance that the growing professionalization of some types of extreme sports do not restrict the ludicity and the spirit of joviality and adventure that guide these practices. The growing institutionalization of extreme sports, directly influenced by the media and marketing appeal as a result of the potential and promising spheres of consumers' tribes, must constitute an important factor of concern for associations of sportsmen of these modalities, in order to prevent the spirit of their practices from sports becomes a fierce competition for results. Bibliographic references Aristotle. Policy. Sao Paulo. Cultural. 2nd edition. 1973 OS Pensadores Collection. BOURVIDU. PA. Youth is just a word. In Questions of Sociology. Rio de Janeiro. Editor Marco Zero. 1983. PROHM. HAM. Political Sociology of Sport. Mexico City. DC Economic Culture Fund. 1982 Bruins. HT. The Quest for Nature, Tourism and Adventure. Berruari. Publishers Manoli. 2009. Dioch. CAG. And Mello. VA. And Junior. EDA. Studies of Sports in Nature. Theoretical and Conceptual Challenges. Scientific article published in the Portuguese Journal of Sports Science. Page 358 to 367. Term. Cultural Dynamics in Modern Society. Rio de Janeiro. Publishers Essays of Opinion 2+2. 1977. Durkheim, Emile. The Rules of Sociological Method. Sao Paulo. Cultural. 1973 OS Pensadores Collection. Gutman, Gallen. From Ritual to Record. The Nature of Modern Sports. In PRONI. Marcelo and LUCCENA. Ricardo. Sport. History and Society. Campinas. Publishers Associated Authors. 2006. Bingham, A.G. Methodology in the Sociology of Sports. From Symptoms of Malaise to Weber for a Cure. In PRONI. Marcelo and LUCCENA. Ricardo. Sport. History and Society. Campinas. Publishers Associated Authors. 2006. Lucene. Ricardo D. Figueiredo. Sport in the City. Campinas. Publishers Associated Authors. 2001. MAFESSOLI. Michel. The Time of the Tribes. Rio de Janeiro. University Forensic Publishing House. 1988 Magnani. J.G. Party on the Peace. Sao Paulo. Editora Brasiliense. 1984. Marcelino. Nelson. Leisure Studies. An Introduction. Campinas. Publishers Associated Authors. 1998. Martins. R. Competitions. In Native Theory. In Tani. Go et al. Competition in Sports and School Physical Education. Scientific text produced in the book Escolar Health, the Child, Life and School. 1997. Oliveira, Percio Santos D. Introduction to Sociology. Sao Paulo. Editora Itaica. 18th edition. 1997. PRONI. Marcelo and LUCCENA. Ricardo. Sport. History and Society. Campinas. Publishers Associated Authors. 2006. Essay. Mario and Brancaio. Leonardo. Extreme Sports. Indications of a New International Society in a Globalized World. Revista Export AE Associated. Year 4. 10-11. 25. 41. TAHARA. Alexander Klein and SCHAW Hardesy. Giselle Klein. Adventure Activities in Nature. Investing in Quality of Life. bfdeportes.com, Digital Magazine. Buenos Aires. Number 58. 2003. http://www.efdeportes.com/event.html/Uvina. Ricardo Ricci. Youth, Leisure and Radical Sports. Berruari/SP. Editor Minoli. First edition. 2001.